Whoop-de-doo, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on our YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and this is that show where we just sit around and talk about the things we love the most, the things that give us joy, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, all sorts of good stuff. I'm joined in studio today by our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
Hey, everybody.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
You didn't mention Star Trek.
No, I didn't. Because if I did, I would mention new Star Trek, and then a fight would break out.
It's true.
Then everything would go right off the rails. But most importantly, of course, guys, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a whole bunch of topics we got lined up for you guys today. And then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you want to send in a comment or question, you got to be watching the show live as we're doing the live stream, because the way you send in a comment or question is by using the super chat feature in the live chats. Now, I will let you guys know, if you have a topic or a theory or a question you want us to address, send it in soon, because at some point I'm going to turn off the super chats as they start to fill up pretty quick. All right, listen, before we get into our topics, just a couple of pieces of housekeeping here. Number one, tonight is the next installment of our movie meetups, and we're going to be at the AMC Burbank 16 tonight for the 7:10 p.m. screening of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I'm going to be there. Jonathan Voico is going to be there. Robert Meyer Burnett is going to be there. The way these movie meetups work is real simple. If you want to come and watch a movie with us, we'll do what we did. Go to the AMC website, buy a ticket to the AMC Burbank 16, 7:10 p.m. screening of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and come on in and watch the movie with us. And then afterwards, I'm going to be hanging out in front of the theater for a little bit to take some pictures and meet some people and stuff like that. And you guys will get to meet other John Campea Show viewers. So hopefully, if you're in the area, you can come on by and join us tonight. The second thing I need to mention here is the more important thing, which is, of course, our annual Adopt a Family program. You guys know every year, Ann and I go to the city and we sign up for the Adopt a Family program, and we get assigned a family. We got assigned a great family this year. It's a mom who suffered a disability, single mom of 4 kids between the ages of 9 and 15. And like a lot of people, they're having a really hard time making things meet this year and struggling to give their kids a happy Christmas. And we just do a little thing, which is try to give them a great Christmas. So we put together a big list, an Amazon wish list, and you guys have sold it all out. You've bought everything on it, except, take a look at this. We set a target that we wanted to give them 250 $10 Amazon gift cards. And right now we've sold 220 of them. So we still need 30 to go. So if you've been planning on contributing to our Adopt a Family this year, first of all, if you already have, thank you so much, guys. But if you've still been planning on it, today's your last chance. Go on in there. Let's clear out those final 30. And and then Ann and I are going to deliver all the presents that you guys send. You should see our living room and dining room. It's just nothing but giant piles of gifts that we've wrapped. Thank you to Ann's mom for coming over and wrapping most of them for us. And so, yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on how all that goes. All right. With that all down, guys, let's get things started with something great. One of the big Oscar frontrunners this year is the new Timothée Chalamet, who I say is going to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis. I think he has the potential, the mutant power to be the most powerful of them all. I really do. I don't think he's there yet, but I've been saying for years, he's the guy that's got the potential to be the next Daniel Day-Lewis. Nobody else in the world does. He does. So his new movie, Marty Supreme. Well, I had a chance to sit down and watch Marty Supreme yesterday, and I hated it. I'm not joking. I thought it was terrible. And as of right now, as of my most recent checking in, and Jonathan, maybe you can double check on this, I believe it had like a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, if you guys know, this was one of my most anticipated films for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Because
89 reviews, 97%.
Mine too, though. So you're harshing my mellow.
Now, okay, I want to remind everybody that mine is but one man's opinion, right? Like, It's got a 97%. I want you to keep that in mind. All film is subjective. I can only communicate to you my personal experience with it, okay? And as in all movies, personal experience will vary from person to person. But as somebody who was so excited for this movie and who is I think it's fair to say, other than somebody named Mama Chalamet, I am probably the number one supporter of Timothée Chalamet. I think this guy is, again, 9,000 doesn't even touch it. He is beyond. He is just like another level of actor that we only get to see once in a generation, I think. And this movie sucked balls. Get it? See what I did there? Because it's about ping pong. Anyway, but it does. It sucks balls. This movie sucks. And then let me tell you what's good about the movie. The production design, absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. The costume design, the set design, the cinematography, from a technical point of view, chef's kiss. Excellently done. If I watched this movie on mute, I probably would have had a better time. The other thing that is excellent about this movie, the performances across the board. Like, let's even start with whatever Shark Tank guy's name is. Kevin
Leary.
Iwaki? Well, yeah, sure. Leary. That's it. O'Leary. That's his name. You know what? I heard people say he was pretty good in this movie, and I didn't buy it. I'm like,
Shark
he's
Tank
just going to
Magoo.
go. He's pretty good in this. He plays the role really well. And by the way, Gwyneth Paltrow, who I believe her and Anne Hathaway, for some reason, it's just the cool thing to do to hate on those two for whatever reason. Gwyneth Paltrow just woke up one morning and said, I need to remind these fuckers that I'm one of the best actresses on the planet. And she delivers. Her performance in this, next level. She's great. It's a small supporting role. Well, not too terribly small, but it's a supporting role. She's fantastic in it. She's great. And what can I say about my boy Timothy?
T-Shammy.
T-Shams, man. He's awesome in it. He is absolutely, him and Leonardo DiCaprio are absolutely the front runners in my head for best actor. His performance is incredible. John, you just said a lot of nice things about this movie. Yeah, but the problem is, story-wise, structural-wise, this movie's an absolute mess. It's like a 7-year-old in a Lego pit. Just everything's jarbled and chaotic and meshed up. And I get it. Sometimes controlled chaos can be really enthralling in a movie, but this isn't controlled chaos. This movie has no idea where it was heading, what its direction was. I remember I told Jonathan before the show started today that about 3/4 of the way through the movie, I'm like, number one, have no idea where this is going. And at this point, number two, I no longer care. Like, at one moment, like the basic underlying premise, this guy, Marty Mauser is the character's name. And then it goes through the name Marty Supreme, but he's like a ping pong wizard, best in America in the 1930s. And he's on this quest to prove himself the best. Okay, I'm in. Sounds great. But it immediately jumps into this kind of plot that you think is going to be part of the movie where he's doing this one thing, but 5 minutes later, he's not doing that thing anymore. Now there's this other thing happening involving some guy's dog. Okay. Oh, and then they move away from that. Oh, and now it's about doing ping pong hustles in bowling alleys to raise $10. Well, no, it's not about that anymore. Now it's about, trying to get this famous Hollywood actress. All right, now it's not about that anymore. Now it's not an anthology movie. It's like, you think, John, that just sounds like no, it's not an anthology movie. And then, by the way, all that stuff I just told you, first 35 minutes of the movie. And I just kept doing that throughout the whole thing. And then all of a sudden the guy's dog is back and now it's doing this completely ridiculous thing. And now he's getting spanked, literally spanked. And now he's doing this and now he's doing that and now he's doing this. And it's just like, what the hell is this movie? What the hell is this movie? It is a jarbled mess. And here's the worst part. We love having our characters and our main protagonists flawed. Like, they have some flaws, right? Marty in this movie does not have flaws. He is just a pure up piece of shit. He's just completely unlikable. And at no point in the movie, which is a problem when you're setting up these climactic moments where you're supposed to be cheering for the hero, and I can't, because I think this character is a piece of garbage. And there's like nothing likable about him. And so when you have a character that there's literally nothing to like about them, and they're just consistently coming across as an absolute dickwad, then you can't get attached to it or care about what happens to them. And so as he's on this big overall quest to prove himself and to be the best, you just very quickly realize, I don't care anymore.
I don't care.
I don't care anymore. And it's, look, every year, I was saying this to Rob before the show started, every year, and this is true for all of us, there's always at least that one movie that everybody loves or everybody hates that we are like, I don't get what everybody else is seeing. I really like that, or I really hated that, right? For me, this year, that movie is Marty Supreme. A truly horrible movie in my estimation. But again, I want to remind everybody, don't cancel your tickets just yet. I do want to remind you, it does have a 97%.
Yeah.
I am in the vast minority here, okay, guys? If you've been really interested in this film, you got your tickets. Do not cancel your tickets just because I didn't like it. Almost everybody else does. We all have that one movie. And again, this year for me, it is Marty Supreme. Rob, I couldn't be more disappointed in this film. Like, seriously, because you know how excited I've been for this film.
Me too.
And it's just off. Oh, let me say one other good thing about it. The visual effects of the ping pong playing, flawless. Not just that it looked good, it's that it felt real. And it was not real, but it felt real. And the effects on it were chef's kiss, beautifully done. Again, performances were great, visually stunning, but just a garbage movie. I cannot believe how much. I'm not going to say it's, hey, listen, guys, it's not Craven, okay? I'm not saying this is the worst film of the year, but in a couple of weeks when I do my top 10 worst films of the year, it's going to be on the list. It's going to be on my list. It won't be on anybody else's list, but it will be on mine. So anyway, Rob, I know I'm kind of harshing your mouth because you've been looking forward to this movie, right? Now, come on, you've heard good things about it too from other people, right?
Look, I really wanted to like this movie. And I'm going to go in clean slate.
Yep.
And put aside what you said. I'm going to do what I always do. Trust my instincts. See what I like. I mean, I did like Uncut Gems. You know, and I know you.
I liked it too. I just think it's a little overrated. I don't think it was quite as good as people made it out to be.
The trailers,
I still liked it.
Yeah, the trailers for this though, really made it look good to me. I like all kinds of things. Maybe I'll like it. I don't know, but man, that's a pretty definitive downvote from you.
I again, and you know what? I'm going to say it. It's bad. It all comes down to bad direction. It was badly directed, and you know how I feel about the Safdie brother, but I mean, it is what it is. I just felt like it was badly directed. Anyway, guys, all film is subjective. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean you won't. So I don't know. Did you guys have a chance to see one of the early screenings of it yet? If so, what did you think about it? Again, remember, it's got a 97%. This is one of the best reviewed movies of the year and is a big leading Oscar contender. And for Timothée Chalamet, it's justified. But anyway, whatever you guys think, jump down into the comment section below and let us know
Marty average.
your thoughts. I just saw that in the live chat. Mark Wall says Marty average. All right, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of the big questions that sometimes we address here in the show is like, look, fewer people are going to the movie theaters right now than they did before the pandemic. That is a statistical fact, okay? There just are fewer people. And so we often talk about what do the movies need to do to get people back into theaters. And we've covered a lot of the big obvious bases. Get costs under control. Maybe don't show 30 goddamn minutes of commercials before every single movie. I don't know, maybe start there. But I was reading this article in the Hollywood Reporter of this think tank company that did kind of some research on how do we lure people back into the theaters. And they brought up something that at first I kind of brushed off as just some current pop moment thing. But the more I think about it, it has really started to resonate with me, which is this. Movie theaters should start designing spaces in their buildings, like not right in the theater itself where the screen is, but like in their facilities, whether it's the lobby or down the corner, that are dedicated to social media, where you can go and shoot a social media video, take social media pictures, stuff like that. Why? Because that is how people today are communicating their experiences. The folks over at the Hollywood Reporter wrote this. Part of the experience is a sense of community. Bang on. Bain said, cinemas can harness community to draw people in, the company believes. One path is to provide social spaces and host community events, taking a cue from independent cinemas, which sometimes offer film clubs, themed watch events, and director Q&As. This social component also translates into social media, such as Instagram, TikTok memes, video essays, podcast reaction videos, and cosplay, according to the consultancy. Our 2025 media consumption survey found that 64% of U.S. location-based entertainment attendees share their experiences on social media. A report concludes, this is earned media that cinemas and studios can lean into and actively support. Data partnerships can further enhance the hunt for opportunities. Okay. We've all, I think, kind of believed the idea that one of the best things about going to the movies is the community experience. 100%. That's one of my favorite reasons for going to theaters. And I'm not just watching it sitting on my ass alone in my living room. I'm in a community with 100, 200, 300 other people watching a movie, gasping, crying, laughing together, whatever. It's the best. But how is community almost defined today and driven? It's really through social media. And I love how they pointed out that most location-based entertainment, not just movie theaters, all location-based entertainment. I remember I was at the Formula One thing in Vegas. They had multiple stations all over the place of, hey, you want to shoot some social media photos? Here's their place to do it. Hey, you want to shoot a social media video for TikTok or whatever? We've set up this space for you to do it. And the internet was flooded with people sharing their experiences at the F1 event in Las Vegas. I've been to other events, like party events, that did the same thing. And all those people's social medias were filled with videos and images from those things. As somebody who does out of the theater reactions, let's face it, as the guy who started the out of the theater reactions, a trend that everybody does now, even I got to admit, it is sometimes very awkward to find a spot where you don't look weird holding out your camera or your phone and talking, hey everybody, John here, as all these strangers are walking by thinking, who is this lunatic? And if I have some I remember Greg Alba from Real Rejects, during one of their first attempts at out of the theater reactions, Greg was kind enough, like in it, in the video, he goes, God, this is awkward. How does Campea do this? It's true. It's kind of an awkward thing. But at all these events I go to, they always set up some form of social media space. And Rob, considering today, social media is the one thing that kills community, but it's also the thing that allows us the outreach to create community. I actually love this idea of movie theaters specifically setting up spaces that encourages people to create social media content about them being there at the movie theater. I think it's a terrific idea. I really do. And again, for me at first, I kind of read that and I thought, oh, well, that's just a silly pop culture hot thing of the moment. But the more I think about it, I think I really like that idea, because the more people see their friends posting from the theater, say, just saw this, it's amazing, or picture in front of the new Spider-Man poster, all that kind of stuff. That creates engagement. That can create a desire, almost like a FOMO, to get in and be a part of that. I really think, and it's not something that would be terribly expensive or hard for movie theaters to set up. Anyway, that's my thought on it. What do you think about this whole notion?
Well, I mean, I think it's I think it's a good idea as long as we keep all of these people far away from the inside of the actual auditoriums where the movies are being shown. I don't want that at all. I want people to. I think when you walk into, look, I take my phone out before a movie starts too. I'm reading my phone. I take pictures in the theater. I love going to the Harkins, Mountain Grove 16. They have a huge lobby and a bar, and whenever I'm there, I always take a picture of myself and say what I'm there to see. I'm always standing in front of they've got digital readouts that show what movie you're going into. The Irvine Spectrum is like a dance club. If you walk
it's
in,
great.
I mean,
tons of space for something like this to exist.
Yeah, unbelievable. And I'm like, I want to open a club there. In the lobby, because they've got those giant video screens and they've got a pretty good sound system. You put a pounding sound system in there, there is plenty of room to turn that into a huge Orange County's hottest club, brought to you by me. But I think it's a good idea. I think you're right. I just want to make sure, look, Australia has banned social media for teens under 16. I think it's a great idea. You should earn it because social media has turned people into narcissistic, self-centered. We're narcissistic, self-centered assholes, but we know we are. And we also know when not to be that way, like in movie theaters. But I think that that I want to make sure, though, that if anything, the movie theater experience in big cities is a good one because we have the best projection and all that. But in the rest of the country, people treat movie theaters like their living rooms. And I don't want to encourage that behavior. I'd like to see people bring back the sanctity.
We're also talking about not in the room where the screen
right,
is.
Of course. Right. And I just want to make sure that people are aware of that, And I think, look, I think what's great about like the Irvine Spectrum has multiple bars inside of it. So the Harkins has a great bar, and the people that work there, you get to know them. Like it's fun to go to the Harkins Mountain Grove 16 and talk to the people behind the counter because like there's a couple of girls that are huge horror fans, and they're like, oh, they know my name. What are you here to see? And I'm like, well, what have you seen? So you can sit there and talk about it. And then you can put them on social media and go, I got it. Here's a hot take on weapons, and I think that encouraging that kind of interaction too is fun. It makes movie theaters a fun place to hang out. I've gone to the Harkins just to sit at the bar, to even watch a movie.
I used to go to the AMC, or not the AMC. I used to go to the ArcLight every once in a while.
I did too.
Sit in the restaurant and the bar, and
you'd always run into people. That's why I went there. I'm like,
somebody's saying it sounds like something that would encourage people to be even more annoying at the theater. What world are you living in? We're not talking about in the theater where the screen is. We're talking about in social areas. Like I've been to bar and restaurant openings where they get this. Like I remember a friend of ours opened a restaurant and they literally at the opening night event, they set up, only cost them like $500 to do it. They set up this step and repeat right on the sidewalk in front of the restaurant with the restaurant logo on it and all that kind of stuff, encouraging people to go take pictures, shoot some videos, whatever, blah, blah, and spread it around. And it got the word out.
That's also studios can be more engaging. Like if you have that kind of specific area, then you have marketing teams making engaging backdrops for the movies Yeah.
And I just think it's something where if you get your actual customers to do your marketing for you, that's the most powerful marketing there is. Just give them the tools to do it.
Well, that's what like the trades. Speaking of that, I was just looking at the Marty Supreme premiere at the Academy Theater and seeing not just Timothée Chalamet and Gwyneth Paltrow, but all these other celebrities, like Halsey was there, and they're all like interacting with one another. And it was cool. It was cool. I'm like, that's cool. All these guys turned out to see the movie, guys and girls.
I mean, if you look, we talk about the success of Barbenheimer, but Barbenheimer would not have been as successful if it weren't for the social media aspect. All of those
100%.
people and the viral videos they were putting out and making everyone feel like we got to be a part of this movement. It's huge.
Now, and again, so I just think if you're a movie theater, why not treat it like any other business? It's like we want people to come here, to enjoy coming here, and then share their positive experience of coming here. So give them some tools and some avenues that they can do that more effectively. And again, create a little bit of FOMO, create a little bit of a wanting to be a part of that thing. Again, I just think it's something very inexpensive, very little, if any, drawbacks whatsoever. I think it'd be some kind of cool to do. And again, I guffawed at it when I first read it, but I got to say, I've kind of come around to it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about that? What do you think about movie theaters and some of the unused space that they have around the theaters to dedicate to helping people create social media content to kind of spread the word and get people interested in coming to their establishments? I like the idea because it's really cost effective and it doesn't take much effort. Anyway, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys, with that down, we're going to play a little game today of what's more likely. A little bit earlier today, we jumped on the YouTube channel and we asked our viewers, hey, do you got any what's more likely scenarios for us? Send it on into us and we'll pick out a few. Jonathan's got a few gathered up there. So Jonathan, what do we have?
All right, Rob. We're going to hear from Matt first. What's more likely? A movie will cross 3 billion or will never cross 3 billion? What's more likely on that?
Well, I'm going to say that it will. One day a movie will cross 3 billion. I'm not going to say, because to say something is never going to happen, if that's the case, there's no statement. I'm going to say one day, yes, I do believe a movie will cross $3 billion. I believe that.
I'm going to say it's more likely that it doesn't happen. Now, remember, the name of our game is what's more likely, like not what is definitively 100% for sure. But again, I think the fact that we only have, five, six members of the $2 billion club, and the fact that we today have fewer people going to the movies. Now, it could be in 7 years that it costs $218 to go to the movies, and then maybe, we cross that number. Maybe. But honestly, and this is fine. I think we can definitely still have movies that do hit $2 billion. Very rare, but I think it can happen. But I think it's more likely that we never get a film that crosses 3 billion.
Well, here's the thing. What if they re-release Endgame with that thing and Endgame goes over $3 billion?
But it would need to make, God, how much?
140 million, something like that.
How much million?
Or, I better look at that number again.
It would have to make in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So, I mean, look, then you're talking about asterisks. That's not really a movie coming out and making 3 billion.
But that wasn't the question that was asked.
It would have to make 200 million.
It'd have to make 200 million.
That's a lot.
Possible. But again,
what about?
I would have to put an asterisk on that one. If we're talking about literally a movie coming out and then making $3 billion, I'm going to say it's more likely that that'll never happen. All right, what's next?
Okay. Where am I? Here. John, what's more likely in the scenario when we hear from such a tool, the Supergirl trailer hitting 100 million views in its first 24 hours, or the Doomsday trailer surpassing Deadpool and Wolverine's 365 million views when it hits YouTube?
That's a good one.
That's a good question. Now, I'm going to say it's more likely that the Supergirl trailer goes over 100 million views. And the reason I'm going to say that's more likely is because I think it's going to do that easily. Easily. Like, crossing 100 million views in the first 24 hours won't even put it on the top 20, I don't believe, of the most viewed trailers ever. It's easily going to do over 100 million. Remember, Deadpool and Wolverine, 365 million, 366 million. So we believe that the new Doomsday trailer absolutely can become the #1 trailer. We absolutely believe it can cross that 365. But the Supergirl crossing the 100 to me is an automatic in its sleep. Automatic in its sleep. The question to me is about whether or not it hits 175 or 200. So because that's the way easier one, I'm going to say it's more likely that Supergirl crosses 100 million, even though I still fully believe the Doomsday one can cross and beat the Deadpool and Wolverine one. Rob, what's more likely?
I'm in total agreement with you, because the Supergirl trailer hitting, like you pointed out, 100 million views, I don't think is much of a feat.
Yeah.
And you're looking at, that's a lot of views you got to get on that Doomsday trailer.
Yep.
But,
and we both believe it can do it.
I mean, but it is going to be the greatest trailer any of us have ever seen. Because here's the thing. What's really interesting, I am fascinated just by this trailer. Forget anything else. Forget what's gone on with the MCU. Because of this leap that they've made. Remember they had to rejigger their plans after Kang and all that.
Yeah.
They've pivoted into this wacky idea of Tony Stark, of Robert Downey Jr. playing Doom. There's so much interesting stuff happening. It's such to me like a weird Hail Mary that I would watch this trailer. I'm going to watch it 5 times in a row just in disbelief. Like, I don't even know what I'm going to think about it.
Yeah.
Until I've got to consume it multiple times before I even wrap my head around from the business perspective, then the storytelling perspective, the perspective of the past Avengers movies. So I think eventually, like you said, it's going to get there. It'll probably surpass if it's good.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going to say the difference is. I think the Doomsday trailer will probably beat the Deadpool and Wolverine one. Supergirl crossing 100 million is automatic, zero doubt.
Yeah.
Like automatic, zero doubt.
And you have to ask yourself, why do people watch trailers this many times? It's not just single views. Everybody had the idea of a Deadpool and Wolverine movie was awesome. Like, when they decided that, it's like, who didn't want to see that? Anybody who ever liked comic book movies, science fiction movies, horror movies, whatever, loved the idea of that movie. Not everybody loves the idea of a Doomsday movie with Robert Downey Jr. It's something that the trailer is going to have to surpass the doubt, because a lot of people are going to be like, all right.
Yeah, but even the people that doubt
Are
going to watch this trailer. So the answer is probably both, but it's more likely because it's an easy automatic that Supergirl's going to cross 100 million.
I'm just excited, dude.
I cannot wait for both of these.
For no matter how I feel about it, I just can't believe we're going to get to watch it.
All right, what's next?
All right, Rob. What's more likely in this scenario when we hear from Randall? He-Man will make more or less than Captain America: Brave New World.
Ooh.
What's more likely, that He-Man makes more money than Captain America or less
you
money
know
than
what?
Captain America?
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say I think He-Man's going to make more money. I think He-Man's going to make more money only because everything that we've seen from the behind-the-scenes stuff, knowing it's Travis Knight, knowing I have to go back to my boy Guy Hendricks Dias being the production designer, and I know how much love he puts into his work. I think it's going to outgross Brave New World.
Yeah, I'm going to understanding that Captain America: Brave New World, which wasn't very good, made $416 million. That's right in the zone of where I'm putting this Masters of the Universe movie to make, between 400 and 500. So it's on the lower end. So I'm going to say it's more likely, again, not a lock, but more likely that He-Man Masters of the Universe makes more than Captain America: Brave New World, because I do believe it can make more than 416 million. That's the number. So, like, just change the wording of the question. Can He-Man make more or less than 416 million?
Yeah.
And I think it's more likely that it goes over 416 million, thus beating Captain America: Brave New World. So I'm going to say more likely.
And also, they tested it way before it was getting released.
Yes.
So they've got their answer. People are talking about how wonderful it is. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good bet.
We'll see.
Can you go bet? You know, there's weird new betting services where you can bet on all kinds of pop culture events. Have you seen this?
Polymarket.
Yes, yeah, something like that. There's a thing. I want to go bet on that. Put that up there. I'll go bet on that. You have to bet like $100 or something.
We do not encourage people to go and do that, but yes, I.
No, it's idiotic. First of all, let me make it clear: idiotic to bet on something like this. But I would do it.
All right, what's next?
Idiocy has never stopped Rob.
No.
All right, John, in this scenario, what's more likely when we hear from Trevor the Wise? What's more likely to be better and more successful, a Star Wars movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, or Starfighter? Well,
I think if you watch this show, you know what I'm going to say here. Starfighter. I absolutely think it is more likely that Starfighter will be the better movie. It will be the more well-received movie. It will be the more successful movie. And it's both pro and negative for each, because, like, on Starfighter, number one, you got one of the hottest directors out there right now doing it. And also, you've got a world-class cast. And that you've got a cast in this movie that literally are these performers that don't have to audition for anything. They pick the roles they want to be in, including Amy Adams, for heaven's sakes. Obviously, Ryan Gosling and others along the line. It's just a completely stacked cast. It's exciting. It's going in a new direction. It's got all that going for it. Mandalorian and Grogu, while I will never bet against my boy John Favreau, that's the one thing that gives me hope in all of it, is that John Favreau. That's the one thing that gives me hope. But outside of just the John Favreau-ness of it, everybody, fair or unfair, looks at this new movie as just an extension of the TV show. Because that's what it is. It's just the extension of the TV show. A TV show that not everybody watched, and a TV show that its last season was pretty piss poor.
Yeah.
At least compared to the first two seasons. It was like the television series ended on quite the down note. And that's what you're going to roll into a feature film with? Like just a glorified version of a Disney Plus episode? Like Mandalorian episodes are super short. So maybe 3 or 4 Mandalorian episodes just kind of crammed together. Again, I hope it's great. I won't bet against it being good because of Jon Favreau. But in terms of what's more likely to be good and have success, I think it's more likely that's going to be Starfighter. Rob, what about you?
One's a movie and one's a TV show. There you go. I'm betting on Starfighter. Starfighter is conceived of as a feature film from the get. So I would imagine, with Ryan Gosling, by the way, coming off of what's going to be one of the most successful movies of next year, which is Project Hail Mary.
I cannot wait for
that I can't wait for that film. I mean, I think a lot of people, they know it too. That's why they put out 2 trailers so far in advance. But I think Starfighter's got the better bet. And again, Mandalorian and Grogu, I know what I'm going to get. I'm not excited. I'm like, okay, we get to visit the Star Wars universe through their eyes, but we've already done that. So I unless you tell me there's something really compelling that I have yet to see to make me excited about it, I'm like, I'll see it when I see it.
What if this is the swingers of Star Wars, man?
By the way, you know what the one good thing is about me having so many doubts about Mandalorian and Grogu?
Low expectations?
I am setting myself up for a big, pleasant surprise. I'm at least feeling like I'm because some movies we set ourselves up for disappointment. I feel like I'm setting myself up for big, pleasant surprise. And hopefully that's what it'll be. All right, what's next?
All right, Rob, I think this is our last scenario here. What's more likely when we hear from DP Soccer, Avengers Doomsday runtime over or under the 3-hour mark?
Ooh,
what say you?
I'm going to say under. I think it's more likely it's gonna get close. It's gonna push on that 3-hour mark. I bet it's like 2:55, 2 hours and 55 minutes.
You know what? I am completely in alignment with you on this. I feel like you say, but John, okay, yeah, but the trend right now for studios is asking their filmmakers to keep it a little tighter. I don't think they're gonna keep it to 2 hours.
No way.
But I think you are absolutely spot on with this, Rob. I think we're talking 248, 253, 255, or something like that. I think it's going to be a very long movie, but I think in the world of what's more likely, I think it is more likely that it comes in under that 3-hour mark.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to keep it to under 3. It's not going to be one of these things where studios are asking their filmmakers to keep it under 2. But I think they're going to keep it under 3. Now, as far as Secret Wars goes, that's going to be an entirely different discussion. That could be a 7-hour movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, this one, I think they're going to keep under 3.
I also think, look, Disney ain't dumb. And the fact that they're re-releasing Endgame prior to this movie coming out, they're prepping everybody. Endgame has a very long runtime as well. They're saying, this is the Avengers movie that
with supposedly an additional
ending.
Post-credit scene.
Yeah, so they're prepping us. They're not going to give us, and they're not going to show Endgame months before they release this movie that has an almost 3-hour runtime and give us a movie that's 2 hours and 5 minutes. They're not going to do that. A movie that they have to spend an hour setting up Doctor Doom. Who is he? What is he? What does he want? Why does he look like Tony Stark? Why does he steal Spider-Man at the end of Brand New Day in the post-credit scene? Just kidding. I made that up.
False information.
Made it up. I did, by the way. I just made that up. Don't repeat that. I did make it up. I don't know anything about Brand New Day.
By the way, I do want to point this out. One of our viewers is saying, but the Russo brothers said it's 3 hours. Listen to me. Right now, the Russo brothers don't know how long the movie is.
Right.
Not edited.
This movie still has a lot of post-production to go through. Yeah. They have not come anywhere near the final cut of the movie. Even the Russo brothers, like right now, they could say, it's probably going to come in around 3. And by the way, I think they'll be right. I think if it's at 2:52, it's coming in at around 3. But just make no mistake about it. The Russo brothers have not given any definitive thing about how long the movie is because even they don't know how long the movie is yet.
Well, when they announced that there's a third Avengers movie, they split it in 2.
Then we'll know for sure. All right, guys, that will wrap up today's little session of What's More Likely. Thank you so much to all you guys who sent in those scenarios for us. And keep your eyes open on the YouTube channel when we put out little posts in the community section asking for your submissions. All right. That down, guys. Let's move on and talk about this, shall we? Let's stick on the topic of Doomsday for a second. Because, obviously, Kevin Feige and the world of the MCU made a big splash a couple of years ago when they got on that stage at Comic-Con, announced the world, Doctor Doom is coming, and Robert Downey Jr. came out on stage, pulled off that mask, says, new mask, same task, sort of thing.
I thought he said, "Pardon me while I whip this out." I won't scream, but
and then got everybody chatting. And so, I mean, everybody's been buzzing about it, everybody's been talking about it. Well, there is a new report that comes out that, once again, we need to make sure you guys understand to file this one firmly under the rumor mill category. This is definitely got to be categorized as a rumor.
I love rumors.
So keep that in mind, but it is what's being spoken out there. According to a number of outlets like this one, they're all getting it from the same source, one of these Twitter sources, but a lot of them are running, like Superhero Hype is running with this. Avengers Doomsday will make Steve Rogers, Chris Evans's Steve Rogers, as the co-main focus alongside of Robert Downey Jr. That's the claim. That it's ultimately kind of going to be Doom versus Steve Rogers. All right, now let's do what we always do with these rumors. Let's discuss the two separate parts. What is the believability of it? And then, assuming for a second that it is true, let's talk about how we would feel about it if it was indeed true. Let's first start with the believability of it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I simply don't think it would be possible in the day and age where every single person walks around with a global video and audio communications device to secretly, maybe you can secretly film a scene or two with Chris Evans that nobody finds out about, but to have him literally be practically the co-lead of the movie and nobody ever knew, it's almost impossible today to do that. I'm not saying it's completely impossible, but it's almost impossible. So I, for one, don't buy this. I do believe Chris Evans is coming back, but it may not be in Doomsday. It might not be till Secret Wars. Maybe it is in Doomsday. Who knows? But I don't buy this. That being said, let's take it at face value just for the sake of the discussion for a moment. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that this is true. I love it. I love it. And the reason I love it is I'll take you guys back to about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. I did a video on my little Thoughts on Walks series where I talked about the biggest challenges facing the MCU right now. And one of the things that I laid out, and I've said ever since, is that when they lost Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., and Steve Rogers, Chris Evans, they literally lost the heart and the soul of the MCU. They lost not only on camera the faces of the MCU in Iron Man and Captain America, but they lost off camera the faces of the MCU, Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. And they have not successfully, in all the things that Marvel's done well and done right, Marvel has never successfully had what's the word I'm looking for when you pass the crown? A succession. They've never properly had a real succession about who is now the face and the heart and the soul, who is the centerpieces of the MCU. We've now gone 6-7 years and they've never been able to answer that question. Because of that, the idea of bringing back the heart and the soul of the MCU to help transition, this gives the Marvel Cinematic Universe a new opportunity to transition after Secret Wars by bringing back in and having the core centerpieces being Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. I think it would be a marvelous idea. I think it would get all of us who have been fans of the MCU for the past 20 years super excited. I think narratively, it gives you a lot of rich stuff to cover, and it gives you your next opportunity, your second chance to transition to a post-Tony and Steve MCU because they botched their first attempt at it. I love this, Rob. I love the idea of this, but I don't think it's what they're doing. Anyway, Rob, I pose those two same questions to you regarding this rumor. Do you believe that kind of the centerpiece of Doomsday is going to be ultimately Doom versus Steve Rogers and maybe different factions that they each lead, aka a Civil War II in some ways? And then for argument's sake, let's say it is real. Do you like the idea or not? How do you feel about it?
They were always going to bring back Chris Evans as Steve Rogers.
Oh, I've been saying that for years.
That's always been the plan because Steve Rogers never left. Now, if you think about it, if you think about what happens with his character and why showing Endgame is important, Endgame shows you definitively Steve Rogers isn't dead. Steve Rogers got to live a dream.
Yeah.
In that he went back in time, he delivered. I mean, if Endgame went the way it was supposed to, he would have just come back and said, "Okay, what's next?
Mission accomplished."
You know, Jed Bartlett, what's next? You know, whatever. And
nice West Wing reference. Yeah, I like that. Very well done.
And he would have done that, but instead he chose to go lead his life the way he wanted to lead his life, and he comes back and he gives the shield. Well, that means that he still had 50 years of life, you know, and he lived through the entire 20th century, from the end of World War II all the way up to, we don't even know when, like, so when he came back as an old man, where was he coming from?
Right. To get to that point.
We don't know.
He was coming from Queens.
For 50 years?
Yeah.
We have no idea.
Living out his life.
I am willing to bet that the end scene from Endgame is going to show us
the new end scene. The supposed new end scene.
The supposed new end scene. If there's an end scene, we are going to find out, because it would just be cool. Now I'm just going. Let's just assume this rumor's true. We're going to find out. We just assume that Steve Rogers lived his life, but no one asked him, like, wait a minute, have you just been here the whole time? Did you just walk into this bench knowing that we were going to show up here
Well, he knew where they were when
he knew exactly where they were. So he lived his 50 years and was waiting. Honey, I got to leave, you know, with his elderly wife. I got to leave.
Remember, she's dead at this point.
She at this point would have been
She had
dead.
died.
Of course, but he has this whole life, and he's got a clock. Hey, I'm 4 years
time.
away from when I got to go. I don't think that's what happened. I think there's a lot about Steve Rogers' life over the last 50 years that we don't know. And when he shows up at the end of Endgame, we're going to find out in that post scene, it's going to tee up that Steve Rogers, what happened, we know two things about him. We know he was an old man at the end of Endgame, and we know he went back and had a life with Peggy.
Right.
We don't know anything
in between
about what happened in his life in between. So it's not a cheat. It's just, we don't know.
What?
And in comics, I mean, you know, one of my favorite things in any comic is when Guardian comes back in like Alpha Flight 24, and you thought he was blown up, and he's got this cockamamie story about these aliens. I remember reading that going, oh my God. They can do the exact same thing with Steve Rogers. And people will go, they just have to show us what happened. Mm-hmm. So I think absolutely, because what are the two great moments in both Infinity War and Endgame that people love? They're both Steve Rogers moments, when he walks out of the shadows and when he gets Thor's hammer and says, Avengers assemble, you know, and all that. And they're going to do it again. They're going to, third time's a charm. Steve Rogers is coming back. I totally believe it. I believe it, but it might not be true.
I think, to me, it's no secret, my favorite MCU character, Marvel Cinematic Universe character, is Steve Rogers. He's my favorite. I think
he's the heart of it.
The one frame, to me, that epitomizes the whole MCU up until Endgame was that one shot that went really wide of a lone Steve Rogers standing by himself, broken shield on arm, facing the legions of Thanos by himself.
Yeah.
And just, if I could make that poster with the words, I can do this all day, and hang it on my wall, I would put it in every room in my house. And so that's why I love the idea of this, Rob. I can't buy it. I just can't believe that that's what they're doing. I cannot believe they've been shooting for 6 months with Chris Evans on set and nobody got a leaked picture of it. I just don't believe
That's why they went to London.
But I hope it's true.
That's why they went to London.
There's no phones.
They have cell phones in London.
There's no phones in England.
But they had controlled environments. You know, they're not like Spider-Man was shooting in Glasgow in the streets.
I'll just go on record and say I hope you're right.
I didn't make this up. I'm just responding to a rumor.
Well, I mean,
right, but you're believing it, and I hope you're right.
I believe it because it's cool.
Even in its essence, there's no, he just lived a quiet life, because it changed Peggy Carter's life.
Yeah.
Knowing that he's back, it changed inevitably that butterfly effect of her decisions. There's no sorrow. They may have teamed up, with who did she work for?
Shield.
There's a lot. He messed up with the time when he did that.
Which movie was it?
He didn't just live in a basement for 50 years hiding.
Which movie was it that it opened? It might have been one of the Ant-Man movies where it opened with they're at Shield's headquarters. It's a slightly older Peggy, a slightly older.
That's the first Ant-Man when Michael Douglas is.
Is that the first Ant-Man?
In the
Yeah.
Triskelion.
Okay, right.
And he's younger.
Where secretly, now we go back and watch us like, wait a minute, that Peggy secretly has her husband Steve Rogers at home and nobody else knows about it.
Or does she? Because we don't know if they spent like he says to Sam that we had a great life, but that doesn't mean what was he doing for 50 years? What does a super soldier do? Not tell anybody he's Captain America? I think there's a lot we don't know about his life.
We'll find out. All right, we've been spending enough time on this, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? The latest rumor of the day, and again, I cannot emphasize enough that this has to be firmly planted under the category of rumor, unsubstantiated rumor, that I quite frankly highly doubt. But it's fun to speculate. What would you think about the idea of Steve Rogers kind of being the main foil to Dr. Doom and Doomsday? I think it's a brilliant idea, but I absolutely don't think that's what they're doing. I hope I'm wrong. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? I make no secret about it. One of my favorite guys in this business is James Gunn. I mean, the few times I've had the opportunity to sit down and chat with him and hang out with him, obviously he came into our studio that one time and hung out for like 3 hours with us. And I've just always liked him, a huge fan of his work. And I just think he's legitimately one of the nicest guys in the business. Well, you guys remember that one of my other favorite filmmakers the other day, Quentin Tarantino, pulled a really dick move. And without any provocation, without any leading, without any reason whatsoever, just decided to haul off and trash on Paul Dano. And then, by the way, he decided to drag in and throw a couple of other people under the bus who had nothing to do with the conversation whatsoever. And one of them was Matthew Lillard, who is a really nice guy and everybody in this business likes. And I ain't saying Matthew Lillard will ever win an Academy Award. Not at all. But to say he's like one of the worst guys out there. And of course, Matthew Lillard did an interview the other day where he's asked, how did you feel about that? He said, makes you feel pretty crappy. It really sucked. Like you're sitting there like one of the biggest, most prestigious names in the business just decided to publicly trash you. Well, James Gunn did something pretty classy. And we talk about some big things on here, but every once in a while, I just like cool little things that happened and kind of bring light to it. James Gunn got on his social media. Sometimes I worry about how active he is on social media, but he's very active. And he posted this. He posted, just a few photos over the years with one of my favorite guys and actors, Matthew Lillard, for no reason. Didn't mention Quentin Tarantino. Didn't mention the comments. He just said, for no reason. And first of all, there's a much more modern pic than this is another one. Look, they look like children, man.
My God.
And
then through time of just him posting pictures with Matthew, I just thought that this was a very kind, classy, not creating drama, not going, Quentin Tarantino doesn't know what he's talking about. He goes, here, just for some no reasons, here's one of my favorite people, one of my favorite actors, Matthew Lillard. But I just thought that was the epitome of class. I thought it was a really kind gesture. And I want to see more of this kind of stuff in Hollywood. You know what I mean? Anyway, Rob, what did you think about this?
Well, James Gunn wrote Scooby-Doo.
I totally forgot about that.
Where Matthew Lillard played Shaggy.
Yep.
And it's like that's one of the places where James Gunn really began his studio career. He'd written like Dawn of the Dead that Zack Snyder did, and he wrote Scooby-Doo. So they've probably been friends ever since then. I used to know James a little back in the day because I worked in this movie with him called The Specials, and he's always been this kind of guy. I just want to actually give a shout out to director Brian Fuller, whose movie Dust Bunny is coming out, who also did a post with Matthew Lillard and David Dastmalchian, who's in
Yep. Who, by the way, is in this, who's also in this picture.
Yeah.
I have here on my
Oh, yeah.
in the background.
Yeah, in the back. And
Right in the back, yeah.
They're all these people, they're all friends, you know, and Fuller did the same thing, promoting Dust Bunny. Did a really funny thing with the Dust Bunny puppet. And I do think it's great when people do that because it's a way to support. It was a really, look, I love Quentin Tarantino and I love his movies.
And I will always be a fan of his, and I'll always look forward to his next film. I'm just very disappointed.
He was very nice to me once, and I just don't understand why he did that. And you know what's really funny? In There Will Be Blood, Paul Dano is supposed to be the kind of character that Quentin Tarantino accuses him of. Within the universe of that movie, he's kind of supposed to be that guy.
Listen, look.
He does great. You can't have that movie without him.
I don't care what Tarantino says. Paul Dano was pure bloody perfection in that movie. And he was just overshadowed by the greatest performance in the history of film of Daniel Day-Lewis in that movie. But Dano himself was brilliant in it. And by the way, let me double down on this again and just say, I have no problem. It's all subjective. If Quentin Tarantino didn't like his performance in it, I have no problem with that. My problem is with a director of the level of prestige that he is, unprovoked. It's not like if the interviewer had asked Quentin the question, you know, Mr. Tarantino, you've worked with a lot of actors, and so you've been around Hollywood a lot. Who are some of the actors that you really don't think are all that good? I still would like Quentin to say, I'd rather not answer that. But if he did answer it and said, well, I think it makes sense in the sense that, you know, when he's saying, look, we want HBO to focus on shows like True Detective, White Lotus, the Game of Thrones stuff, high prestige television. That's what we want, including high prestige comedy, like The Chair Company and things like that are really hot right now. That's what we want. We feel that DC content might be better fitted to be on Netflix once it hits its streaming world, right? And I kind of dig it. I actually think it kind of works. Now, the one thing that it does give me pause is that when I think of shows like Penguin, that show to me is kind of prestige television. And maybe, but I mean, you do want to put it all under one roof. And I think instead of like dispersing DC content, some on HBO, some on Netflix, put it all under one place. Look, if it was up to me and they called me and say where to put it, I put it on HBO Max. That's where I would have it. But I kind of understand the reasoning of putting that stuff on Netflix at the same time. By the way, Rob, I wouldn't be surprised if there's certain Netflix stuff that gets transitioned over to HBO Max at the same time. Now, they're not talking about that, but one of the changes I guess we can expect to see is that we're going to get DC content put over there. What do you think about this?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because yesterday I was having a conversation with somebody I know deep inside Warner Brothers, and they were much more enthusiastic about Netflix taking over than Paramount Skydance. And they brought up something. They brought up a DC-related property. And I won't say what it is, but it's a television property. And they were talking about wanting to get it remastered for today because it's a beloved property that's not, and how they don't have the money to remaster it. They can't justify the expense of remastering this property, but they said it should get remastered. And the person didn't say this directly, but the insinuation was that I bet Netflix would remaster this property. You know, and it would be something that would immediately go on, because if you think about it, look at all the previously existing DC materials that have existed forever. I mean, you've got animated shows.
It's huge.
It's monstrously large. You've got all the movies.
Yep.
And I have to say, Superman 4: The Quest for Peace,
nice, yes,
is not.
I was not expecting that reference today.
It's not an HBO movie. I mean, it's on HBO, but you don't go to HBO looking for Superman: The Quest for Peace. Or
I don't think you go looking for Quest for Peace. Period.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I do think, and James Gunn said about Lanterns, he didn't really understand how these things go. I think what's really interesting is DC Studios. I mean, Penguin is a one-off. But they're probably, I mean, DC Studios, I think, is a much better fit, if this makes sense, with Netflix, in the sense that, like you said, HBO is more for prestige adult programming. Your True Detectives, your Sopranos, your Oz.
The Wire.
The
Like,
Wire.
On and on, yeah.
And that's where it belongs. Now, you can put Oz on Netflix, sure. But I wouldn't want nine-year-old Timmy watching Oz. Let me tell you, I don't want that to, or even Dream On.
Dude, there's some softcore porn on Netflix. They're totally straight up.
Well, now there is, Hunting Wives or whatever. Yeah, I would rather have 9-year-old Timmy watching that. But as I would be, actually, 9-year-old Bobby B would watch both. But I loved Oz. But I do think it's a good idea. I think if they're making these kinds of thoughts, I think they're really thinking this through. At least it gives me an indicator that they're thinking things through. Because even James Gunn said, "I don't know how HBO does things." Whereas Sarandos is like, James Gunn, you have your shows, you know what you're doing, you're DC Studios, you're coming over to here, we trust you. I can see that. I can see that happening because I thought when James Gunn made that comment, we talked about it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
How he said, regarding the Lantern show, I'm like, uh-oh, this could be problematic. In my mind, it just kind of registered that in the background. I don't think it's problematic anymore.
Remember, he was only talking in terms of release schedule.
Sure.
He wasn't talking about...
But marketing, trailers, release, but clearly it's out of his control. That's what I thought. And I'm like, with Netflix, maybe it won't be.
But it is interesting because Lanterns is scheduled to be HBO, not just on HBO Max. It's HBO production.
Yeah.
So
maybe not anymore.
Well, I think it still will.
Well, no,
because,
of course it will.
Because that...
Remember, Netflix, even
they
if
won't
everything
take
goes
ownership.
straight,
they said for a
Netflix doesn't
year.
get it for at least a year.
Yeah.
Right? So
by
everything will
2027,
continue on
we're
as
looking
normal.
more. But, what does that say for the future? Is it always going to be a Netflix? Will there be outliers like that where it is HBO production? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah. I don't think there's hard and fast rules, but I think for the most part, DC will live on Netflix.
Well, remember, regardless, it's going to be a DC Studios production.
Yeah.
Like all the DC stuff will be a DC Studios production. It's just a matter of, is their home then going to be HBO Max or is it going to be, who's the...
Yeah.
Pardon me, the streaming distributor.
Mm-hmm.
Is the streaming distributor HBO Max or is it the streaming distributor going to be Netflix? How will they handle that? But it's all going to be still James Gunn's production, James Gunn and Peter Safran's production. So still, I think this is a really interesting little thing for us to keep our eyes on. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? They're kind of saying that the DC stuff, the television series, going to be on Netflix. The movies, once they're done in theaters, they're going to be over on Netflix. It's an interesting little kind of strange change of strategy. And I got to admit, it's not rubbing me the wrong way, the way I thought it would. Anyway, whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, sticking on the topic of Netflix, and right now they're on a path to acquiring Warner Brothers. Again, the big wrench could be thrown in this if Paramount is able to gain any ground in a hostile takeover. I don't think they will, but you never know. But for now, Netflix continues on with the process. It's going to be a year-long process of them acquiring and getting Warner Brothers. One of the big fears that everybody, and I, chief of which include myself in this, has been really worried about Netflix getting Warner Brothers is, what does this mean for the future of theatrical releases? Now, in recent days, Ted Sarandos and the other executives at Netflix have made comments kind of suggesting that they want to keep Warner Brothers not only intact, but they want to keep their theatrical model. I and others have expressed some dubiousness about the authenticity of Ted Sarandos's words and the trustworthiness of his words. But they're now doubling down. And Ted Sarandos has just come out and is saying things like, listen, we bought into this for the value that it is. We want in the theatrical business. Really? Anyway, this comes to us from Deadline. We are deeply committed to releasing those movies. He was talking about movies like Sinners, like Minecraft, like what's the horror one that we just love so much?
Weapons.
Oh, yeah.
He was mentioning all these. He goes, we are deeply committed to releasing those movies exactly the way they would have released those movies today, said Sarandos, about staying true to the theatrical model once the streamer snaps up the 102-year-old motion picture studio. Now, I'm going to read this a little bit at length, but I think it's worth it because there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. All three of these new businesses that we want to keep operating largely as they are, he added, specifying that the other two are Warner's TV production and HBO and the Warner Brothers movie production. He said, we're acquiring three new businesses. The theatrical business, we talked about a lot in the past about wanting to do it because we've never been in that business. And they've never wanted Netflix to be in the business. When this deal closes, we are in that business and we're going to do it. To date, Netflix has used theatrical as a means to qualify movies for Oscars via limited releases and unreported grosses. Technically, its first wide release of north of 1,000 theaters was the late August two-day play of K-pop Demon Hunters. The movie played all circuits except for the number one chain AMC Theaters and made $19 million in 2 days, ranking as Netflix's first number one title at the weekend domestic box office. Since Netflix won the bid for Warner Brothers, which doesn't include linear networks, Sarandos hasn't given an exact number when it comes to days for films in an exclusive theatrical window. On Friday, he said he's likely to see the window evolve. Today, he's changed that tune. If we did this deal 24 months ago, all those movies we saw this year do so well for Warner Brothers would have been released in the same way in theaters. I'm talking about Minecraft. I'm talking about Superman. I'm talking about Weapons. I'm talking about Sinners. And the executive who cut his teeth in home video referring to Warner Brothers' strong $4 billion box office. These movies will be released on Netflix through theaters the way Warner Brothers did it before. But with the Warner Brothers operating entity, it's really important the way they create, the way they drive value. We didn't buy this company. Get this. We did not buy this company to destroy that value. Anyway, the long and the short of it is, he goes on and talks about the fact, and he breaks down again the idea that there are two different things. Netflix is still going to be Netflix. Netflix is going to take some of their movies, give them like 14-day windows, give them Oscar qualifying runs, all that kind of stuff. But he is firmly doubling down here and saying, guys, listen to me. We are going to keep Warner Brothers the way it is. We are now in the theater business. We are going to have these 45-day theatrical windows for their movies, not our Netflix films. We're going to do this. We think there's value in that. And we didn't spend $82 billion just to come in and wreck something. That's not our plan. We already know and found out they're keeping DeLuca and Abdi. They're keeping James Gunn. These people know how to make these theatrical movies, and we want them on our side. They're going to do it, and they're going to go. Now, look, there are people out there, and I know this because I was one of them. I admit it, fully admit it. There are people out there, and I was one of them at one point that thought, the only reason Netflix is going after Warner Brothers is because they just want to kill the theater industry. That's what they want to do. I believed that for a bit. I did. But here's the thing. A friend of mine asked me, okay, John, you're not really believing what Ted Sandros is saying. I said, right. What's his ulterior motive? And I thought about it. Like, what's he trying to accomplish then? And the only thing I could come up with was ultimately he just wants to destroy the theaters. He wants to destroy movie theaters. Here's the problem with that flawed logic that was in my head and that other people still have. If Netflix, take a look at this. If Netflix wanted to destroy the movie theaters, okay. You know what AMC Theaters is worth right now? $1.2 billion. That's what AMC Theaters' market cap is right now. These are the 5 biggest movie theater chains in North America, by the way. Cineworld, the company that owns Regal, they are worth $1.5 billion. Cinemark is actually the 3rd biggest, but they're worth the most. They're worth right now $2.7 billion. Cineplex, the Canadian movie theater chain, right now is worth $510 million. And Marcus Theaters is worth $475 million. These are the 5 biggest theater chains. Their combined value is $6.38 billion. In other words, the combined value of the 5 largest North American movie theater chains is 8% of what Netflix is spending to buy Warner Brothers. If Netflix just wanted to kill the movie theater industry, guess what, kiddos? We live in a post-Paramount decrees world. It's no longer, as of about 5 years ago, it's no longer illegal for a movie studio to buy and own a movie theater. They can do it. Any studio can do it now. It was a rule for decades and decades and decades for anti-competition purposes. It was called the Paramount Decrees, that a movie studio could not buy and own a movie theater chain. But guess what? That's not the case now. If Netflix just straight up wanted to kill the movie theaters, instead of spending $82.7 billion to buy Warner Brothers, they could have spent $6.3 billion, 8% of it, and bought all the biggest movie theater chains and just said, yeah, we're just going to show reruns of the Little Rascals 24/7 now in these theaters until we run them out of business. That's what they would have done. They would have spent $82 billion to get into a business that they don't want to be into. And so I got to say, I have to admit, I'm starting to come around to believing that Ted Sarandos wants to keep Netflix just the way Netflix is. It's not a theatrical company. It's not a whatever company. This is what we do. This is how we do it at Netflix. But I think he actually does want in the movie theater business. It can't be Netflix, but it can be Warner Brothers. And then, as I've been saying they should do for weeks, you take the Warner Brothers movies, you put them in theaters, you give them actual theatrical runs, and then you bring them into Netflix and have huge launches for them and huge streaming numbers on Netflix. That's the game plan. That's the path to winning if they're smart enough to do it. Rob, listen, I'm not going to pretend that I don't still have some major apprehensions about this whole thing. My number one choice, as I know is yours, is that Warner Brothers would just stay as an independent company and not be bought by anybody. That is obviously my number one choice. But I have to say, the more I look at the numbers and the more I look at least what they're saying, whether they can be trusted or not, it's making more sense to me. It's making more sense to me that there could be more potential upside to all this. And I'm not going to say all my worries are alleviated. They're not, but some of them are. Some of my worries are alleviating right now. Anyway, Rob, you read this article in this interview with Ted Sarandos. You're looking at the numbers, all this kind of stuff. What's your takeaway from the things he's saying here?
Well, I mean, I'd like to believe him. I mean, I know that there's a lot of things that he said in the past that he contradicts himself later, but it makes sense to me. I think the thing that makes the most sense is what he said about we're not spending $80 million or $80 billion on something only to dismantle it. He's not Gordon Gekkoing Warner Brothers, buying it to break it up.
Right.
You know, he's not doing that. What he sees it as is in a way, for him, I'm sure making movies at Netflix is a headache. I'm sure like the creatives and using analytics and trying to figure out what works and what doesn't and what makes something good and what doesn't. I don't think they have the people over there that are experienced enough to know. I think what you're getting with Warner Brothers is certainly in Mike DeLuca, you have an executive who's been trained since the 80s. You know, he worked at New Line. Hell, he wrote John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness. And so you've got a guy in DeLuca who has seen franchises made with Freddy and franchises unmade with Texas Chainsaw. He saw Lord of the Rings happen. He saw the Rush Hour movies happen. He's seen, there's nobody that is employed by Netflix that's even remotely close to having the experience that Mike DeLuca has. So knowing that Ted Sarandos probably can breathe a sigh of relief, knowing that he's putting this crown jewel where you're going to be getting all kinds of movies that are made that are probably going to be better, and the budgets are going to be watched over closer than we've been watching budgets for sure. Like he doesn't have to sit there and go, Warner Brothers is not going to spend $300 million on a movie.
No, I get to your point. DeLuca and Abney just recently turned down Tom Cruise for something he wanted because they're like, guy, you can't spend that much money on a project.
Because with Netflix, they don't care how much money they spend on a movie because they're not getting any money back. Where Warner Brothers is like, yeah, we care.
We need to be profitable.
They've got to make their movies profitable. So for Netflix, I think it's a good move because they can fob off all these bad decisions they've made in terms of the movies they've been making. And now they're like, you know what? Warner Brothers, go to Warner Brothers. Go over there. And Warner Brothers is going to have a crack team of people. Warner Brothers is like having SEAL Team 6 in place to make, if you want to put it in military terms, to take care of the country that is Netflix. You've got this team that's going to go out there, and they know how to make movies. Man, we'll make you a $55 million movie that grosses $500 million at the box office, and then we'll give it to you to put on your streaming
which
service.
Will have a huge explosion on your streaming service.
And that would be The Conjuring Last Rites. They did that this year, and so you're going to get that movie, and that's what we're going to make you $38 million. We're going to make Weapons. You think the Weapons going on Netflix isn't going to get the Stranger Things crowd to watch endlessly? Hell yeah, it will. I mean, it's a great move if they keep it that way.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. You raise a really good point about this. Explains a lot about them historically, because I think what we're starting to realize and recognize here is that Ted Sarandos has always been very keenly aware that Netflix is not capable of having an actual good, thriving movie business. They don't have the experience. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the personnel. They just don't. And so they've always kind of leaned away from it and put out a whole bunch of crap and played a numbers game and putting out but he sees the opportunity. If we can just acquire Warner Brothers, and we're getting Abdi and DeLuca and James Gunn and Warner Brothers' infrastructure and their networks and their distribution arms and all of that stuff as a package, now we're in business. Because as Netflix, we were never capable of doing that. But if we buy Warner Brothers, we now are.
And I'll tell you something else I think that he's thinking of in long term. In the next 10 years, with where AI is going, you're going to have as much AI motion pictures made by, it's all going to be user-generated content. Will it be good? Don't know. But the technology is going to be there that every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to start making their own feature films. But there's going to be a demand to see excellence. It still takes talent and knowledge. And Warner Brothers has 100 years, and Netflix is going to have a place that they're going to have a place where all the best content is still being made. They're going to have their studio, which is Warner Brothers. And while everyone else, every person in the world is going to start using AI to generate their own movies, from soup to nuts, you're still going to need somebody that shows everybody how it's done. And that's what they've done. I think they're insulating themselves for the onslaught of what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years based on AI and user-generated content. And I think that's a smart move too, because you're going to have YouTube is going to be full of feature films that people have made. It's going to be insane. We have no idea what's about to happen.
We're getting off topic though here. We're going into an
But I
entirely
do think
different
that's
topic.
what he's done. He's insulating himself for the next 10 or 20 years by having a studio that knows how to make movies.
And knows how to distribute them and,
Yes.
and knows how to manage them and has the personnel and the experience, something that Netflix has never had. And so, again, I'm not saying I'm now raw Netflix by Warner Brothers. I'm not. But I am saying it's starting to create a clearer picture for me here. And I'm starting to see a way forward that it can actually work. So, I don't know.
And also the other choice, Skydance and Paramount, has done, I think, some really skeezy things. That letter they wrote, the fact that they've got Jared Kushner and the Saudis backing their play to buy that doesn't really sit well with me.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but that's outside of the scope
Yeah,
of the
course.
movie. But now we're getting into the personal political feelings.
Well, no, but I mean, in terms of what they want it for, it's like, are they still going to make movies? I'm like, I want Skydance and Paramount to thrive. I want Paramount, the mountain, to come back. And yet, let's focus on that, boys. Why do you need Warner
That's been
Brothers?
my biggest thing about Ellison and Paramount. It has been, hey, listen, you just got Paramount. I think you got some really cool vision for it.
Yeah.
How about you just make Paramount into a great studio first? How about you put out one bloody movie?
Then
Maybe worry about expanding into another studio later.
They've made all kinds of great alliances with people, like the Duffer Brothers being one. They brought all these great filmmakers. Let's see some great output from Paramount. Let's see Paramount have the luster they had when they were making bangers in the 80s, like Beverly Hills Cop and Fatal Attraction and Hunt for Red October in 1990.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? In what on the surface looks like a complete 180 in philosophy for Netflix, they're saying, no, we really do want to be in the theatrical business, and we're in the theatrical business now. It seems very odd, but when you think about it, I mean, it's just an admission that they never could do it before, and now they can. And maybe they figured out a way how they can profit from all this. Optimistic? Maybe, but I'm trying to be optimistic. Whatever you guys think about this whole thing, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. By the way, as an aside, I do want to put it, I've seen a lot of people putting in comments, just like I have, comments that I've made before of, I'm like, for instance, Stavros is saying, I'm not buying this, or there's no reason to trust Sarandos. Here's the question that I posed to myself and I would pose to you. Okay, give me what his actual motive is then. What's his actual motive? It's not just to kill the movie theaters, because he could just easily spend $6 billion and just buy out all the movie theaters and shut them down.
Yeah.
So what is, if he's lying, what's his motivation? What is he actually after? He's not spending $82 billion just to get some content on Netflix from HBO. That's not worth $82 billion. So if you're choosing not to believe him, believe me, I can understand that, but I'm saying, the same question I posed to myself, I posed to you. Then what is his actual motivation? What is he spending $87.2 billion on if it's not to build this business that he's saying he is? I can't think of a more profitable thing that he's doing with that $82 billion. Anyway, guys, whatever you think, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, it's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we got to do two quick things. First of all, is bid good day to writer, protector. I keep saying that.
The protector.
I'll be your
Director,
protector.
producer,
Yes.
Robert Meyer-Burnett. Great job as always, Rob. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Well, you'll see me later.
Oh, yeah, tonight at the movie meetup. Looking forward to it.
I will be there.
And of course, guys, we're going to take a quick second before we get to your live questions to thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Aura. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Aura. Guys, if you are anything like me, you swear every year you're going to be on top of your Christmas shopping, and then suddenly it's December 20th, the shelves are empty, and you're standing around in Target asking yourself, does my aunt even like candles? But this year, I am not doing that because of Aura Frames. It's completely saved me. See, I always struggled with what to get people in my life, but this year I'm going to give out a couple of Aura Frames, and it's hands down the most personal, meaningful gift that I can possibly give. And here's the best part. Aura lets you upload unlimited photos and videos. Plus, the frame comes in a premium gift box with no price tag, so it feels like a classy, well thought out gift, even if you bought it last minute. Guys, you can't gift wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code CAMPEA at the checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code Campea. This deal is exclusive to our listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in on time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning that we sent you at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. And thank you to our friends at Aura for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys, with that down, let's get on to the important stuff. Your comments and questions and thoughts, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
Let's see. What do we have first? I just lost my place here. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Scrolling up. And apparently I lost that too. Well, I'm going to read this off of this, but I'll fix it while you answer the question. So, first up would be from KJ King, who says, I've watched since the For Your Consideration days back in 2012.
Wow, thank you, man.
Just wanted to say you've gotten me through high school, college, cancer, being a teacher, and now my first year of being a dad. All that to say, here's to many more years and milestones.
You know, one of the truly amazing and special things, both from hearing from people online and from being at our movie meetups, is when people say, you know, I love hearing say, hey, I started watching you earlier this year. That's all amazing too. But like when I meet these people who are like, yeah, I was just graduating high school when I met you, or when I found you online, and now I want to introduce you to my wife and 3 kids. You know, that stuff is, I'm finding people who have been along on this journey with me that long. And for those of you who don't know, For Your Consideration was what happened after the movie blog, but before, believe before AMC. Or was it in between AMC and Collider? I can't remember it. I can't even get that straight in my head now. Anyway, thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for watching along with us for so long.
All right, next up we got Reza. It says, overreaction, Apple is to sci-fi what WB is to drama.
Huh. Well, I mean, Apple is really killing it with their sci-fi, but I would say this, it's an overreaction because while HBO has been doing it for decades, Apple is still really new to it. And while they've been doing a great job so far, it's too small of a sample size to put it on the same level as HBO with their prestige drama. So for now, I'll say it's a little bit of an overreaction. All right, what's next?
Luke Starkiller says, hi, John and crew. I've heard Disney is releasing a new restored version of the theatrical version of Star Wars in cinemas for the 50th anniversary. Is this true?
You know, I keep hearing that, but I'll be honest with you. I haven't really looked into it. And so I don't know if it's actually true. Again, look, what happens in our movie space a lot is some rando on Twitter says something and then 8 outlets say, oh, on Twitter, it says this. And then people say, oh, this outlet said it, but the outlet didn't say it. The outlet just got it from a Twitter. And all of a sudden we've got a Mandela effect and everybody believes something that isn't necessarily true. Now, again, I don't know if that's the case here. It very well could be legit. If it is, I'm very excited about it. I just don't, right now, I don't know the validity of it at this point because I haven't looked into it at this point yet. All right, what's next?
Sam Fisher says, so with Netflix owning Warner Brothers, who owns Discovery? Because if I recall correctly, they're splitting the two, right?
Well, I mean, yes, this is one of the big differences between the Paramount and the Netflix bid. Paramount wants to buy the whole Warner Brothers company, and that includes Discovery, TNT, TBS, CNN, the whole television thing. Netflix wants Warner Brothers to go through their planned split where they split off Warner Brothers Television Production, Warner Brothers Movie Studio, and HBO Max, and split that off from what they're going to call Discovery Global, which will include all their television assets, including TBS, TNT, CNN, and a whole bunch of other things. So Netflix only wants to buy the Warner Brothers and HBO Max side. And then Discovery Global will become its own company and operate independently. Paramount wants to buy everything and the whole thing all together. So if Netflix buys it, then Discovery and all those TV networks will be their own separate company, completely separate from Netflix and everything else. If Paramount buys it, it'll be included with the package. So it all depends on who wins. All right, what's next?
AL says, under or over 100%, John will reprise his role as the Hulk soldier in Doomsday or Secret Wars.
I've signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, so I'm not allowed to reveal that. All right, what's next?
Yeah, that's going to be a big twist.
Big twist.
Mitchell Klein says, would you guys like to see a Batman Begins type of Star Wars movie about a protagonist learning to become a Jedi and deep dive? You mean like Luke Skywalker?
I mean, well, that's not a Batman. Batman Begins is literally the character we already know. I'm not interested in seeing an even younger Luke Skywalker movie. That's a Batman Begins scenario. It's Batman. Mm-hmm. If we're talking about whether I'd be interested in a Star Wars movie that goes back to the Old Republic days, well, yeah, absolutely. Sure. Different time period, different characters, 100%. But that's not a Batman Begins situation, though. All right, what's next?
Christopher Diaz, what did you think of Zootopia 2? Have you seen it yet?
Okay. I was going to go see it, but then I had the opportunity to watch Marty Supreme.
What an opportunity.
Turns out I should have watched Zootopia 2. Now, I can't watch Zootopia 2 tonight because we got the movie meetup. And I can't watch it tomorrow night because I'm going to go to the Laker game for the NBA Cup playoff round. But hopefully maybe Thursday I'll watch it. I still haven't watched Zootopia 2. I can't believe it. All right, what's next?
Matan says, your complaint, Pluribus points to a problem with modern TV that despite the seasons being shorter, the pace of the plots are paced slower. So now 8 episodes could be like 2 episodes.
I mean, that's not a problem that's across the board. I don't think that's as widespread as you're suggesting, but it is a problem in certain corners. Like, again, listen, I love the premise of Pluribus and I love the first 2 episodes, but it has been unbearably sluggish ever since. It's so bloody slow. Literally nothing happens in each episode, or one thing happens that could have been done in a 15 to 20 minute episode. instead of spending 5 minutes on people restocking a grocery store and 5 minutes of screen time moving stones, like it's just I've tapped out of the show. I've tapped out. I can't take it anymore. It's just so excruciatingly slow and painful that I just can't watch it anymore. But that's just me. All right, what's next?
CM Waters says, what's more likely, Gunn and Safran splitting up or Feige acquiring a co-CEO?
You're not going to see Gunn and Safran split up.
Yeah.
You're also not going to see Kevin get a co-CEO. I mean, you know what? No, I take that back. Because I believe Kevin Feige is already planning his exit.
He may then bring in a co-CEO for a year or two. Yeah.
I mean, and I think his exit strategy is going to be a long strategy. Like, he's not just going to announce tomorrow I'm gone. I think it'll be like, he'll know for I'm leaving in 2 years, and then he'll start making. So more likely he brings on a co-CEO, but only for his departure. All right, what's next?
Slarf says, very realistic chance Neon has 4 movies in the Best Picture category at the Oscars. Sentimental value, it was just an accident, no other choice, and The Secret Agent.
Listen, when you look at studios like Neon and A24, they've been having excellent Oscar success lately. I mean, even just go back like last year's Best Picture winning, Anora. Was that not a Neon film? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, but I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Anora was a Neon film. So, I mean, these little guys, these little studios have actually been having a lot of these great successes. And I'm not surprised to see it continue on. They're just making great art. All right, what's next?
Mighty Tank. I hope Ted puts his money where his mouth is and proves he's all in on theatrical. Take high-profile movies from Netflix, put them in theaters for 45 days over the next year.
Nope, you're not going to see that. He's made it very clear. While I am all in on theatrical with Warner Brothers, Netflix is going to, he's been very clear, Netflix is going to continue to be Netflix.
Right.
Netflix is going to make original movies for Netflix. Some of them he'll give these little theatrical releases just for Oscar qualifying. But as much as he's been very clear that he's all in on theatrical for Warner Brothers, he's been equally as clear that they're going to stay the course with Netflix.
Right.
And they're not going to change the way they do things, so don't expect that at all.
Right. So, like, for instance, had they already owned Warner Brothers and Greta Gerwig wanted to do Narnia and she said, no, but I want theatrical, they would have sent her over to Burbank at Warner Brothers.
Yeah. But they did do a deal for IMAX.
For now.
They didn't do for
but
IMAX,
like, but that's what they would do. We got Frame by Frame with a $20 super chat.
Thank you, Frame by Frame.
Hi, John. Today's my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Wanted to let you know how much this show has meant to me. Been watching since the AMC days. Thanks for always being here for all of us. It's been a great place for film lovers.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, especially right. And again, happiest of birthdays to you, my friend. May you have a wonderful day and a wonderful year ahead of you. And again, thank you so much for the kind words and thanks for being a part of our community. I appreciate that very much.
And Dino of Krypton says, with so many visual effects companies working on movies, how much plot information do these companies get? How do studios keep spoilers so private?
Well, I mean, every company, look, for instance, I used to work at a visual effects company where we would get subcontracted shots to do because, you know, movies now today, some of them will have thousands of VFX shots. And like, they have to contract that out to multiple because no one visual effects company can do it. So they break it up and they create like, say, 7 different packages of visual effects that need to be done. And they bid them out and different visual effects companies will work on different visual effects. But here's what happens. Let's say, let me just use an old visual effects company name, Digital Domain. Let's say they get the contract for a Marvel movie, say, to do 300 of the visual effects shots in the movie. Here's the problem. Sometimes even Digital Domain can't handle that. So then what Digital Domain does is then they subcontract it out to smaller, like some of it. They'll take like 45 or 50 of their shots and subcontract them out to even smaller visual effects companies. So Digital Domain's responsible for these 300 visual effects shots, but they've only got the bandwidth to maybe do 220 of them. So they've got to like subcontract out a bunch of visual effects shots. The visual effects company I used to work at, we were one of those smaller companies that the bigger visual effects houses used to subcontract certain shots to movies out to. But every single one of those the main visual effects companies, the subcontracted companies, all that kind of stuff. Lock and key, death to your family kind of NDAs you got to sign. I mean, massive, massive NDAs that literally would ruin you and the company you work for if stuff got out. And leaks still happen, but yeah, when you're working in a company environment, it's a little easier to keep that under lock and key. All right, what's next?
Lone Wolf says, my RDJ Doom theory. RDJ was always Doom, but Kang knew Doom was a threat to him in the multiversal wars, so he altered the timeline to make it where he was the adopted son of the Starks. Thoughts?
Nah. You know what? I'll tell you right now, I don't think you're going to even hear the name Kang mentioned. I really don't. I don't think that Kang's even going to be mentioned in the entire Doomsday or Secret Wars.
The fact that they wrapped up his storyline at Quantum Mania at the end, where they're like, and there's a few other variants, but we're getting them.
Well, they literally wrapped it up at the end of Loki season 2.
Loki, that was Loki.
It was Loki season 2 that they wrapped up. Said, now the TVA, we're just running around picking up the last stragglers of the Kang variants and putting them away. I think that's the last of it. So honestly, I don't think that's the way they're going to do it at all, to be honest. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be right. You're asking me though, if I think that's the way, I really don't think it's going to be anywhere near that, but we'll find out. All right, what's next?
Brian Bledsoe says, excuse my ignorance, but wouldn't Netflix make money by keeping a film in theaters if it's doing well? And can they adjust the theatrical window per film?
They absolutely can. Yeah. They have that prerogative.
Yeah. There's going to be rules and there's going to be exceptions to rules.
Yeah. Like every time, let's say, let's say Superman 3.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're moving ahead a couple of years now, Netflix, and they put it in theaters and their plan is for like a 45-day window. But Superman 3 is suddenly looks like it's going to pull in 1.4, 1.5, 1.7 billion dollars. This is all hypothetical I'm making up, but yeah, Netflix absolutely has the power,
of course,
to go to the theaters and say, would you like to keep it in there longer?
To which theaters will say, yes.
Which theaters will say, absolutely, yes. So yeah, absolutely. They will still have that flexibility and the prerogative to do that. The question will be, how often will they actually do it? I don't think very often, but they will have the opportunity to do it if they want to. All right, what's next?
Brian follows up. Also, which costs more for a studio? Extending a film that is making money in theaters than pulling a flop early and putting it on Netflix? At that point, it doesn't really cost them.
Well, it doesn't cost you anything to keep it in theaters, and it doesn't cost you anything to pull it out.
Right.
It is what it is. It's either making money or it's lost its money. And you see, here's the thing too. Theaters, sometimes it's not the movie studio's decision. Remember, a theater puts movies on its screens,
right,
not to sell movie tickets, but to get people to come to the theaters to buy popcorn and soda. And if your movie is not bringing anybody into the theater to buy popcorn and soda, they're going to throw your movie off their screen and put up a different movie that might bring in some people. So sometimes it's not their choice at all. All right, what's next?
Mark Sipp says, how soon do you think Disney puts the Doomsday trailer online? My sense is sooner, to avoid everyone's first impression being a bad pirated version.
I've gone on record and said I don't actually know the answer, but my guess, it's just a guess, is it'll be within 24 hours after it's debuted with Avatar.
Yeah.
I think the first day of screenings of Avatar, that's where the only place you could be able to see the trailer. And then the very next day it'll be up and online, specifically because of that, because they're going to want to avoid a lot of people's first impressions being of a bootleg of it. All right, what's next?
Two-parter from Charles, who says, John, you've been there for me when I lost my sister, my dogs of 17 years, and finding out I had cancer. Now you're there for me in one of my best times. My doctors told me today my test came back clear, and after a 5-year battle, I'm cancer-free.
Oh, man.
Congratulations. Thank you, John. You are awesome. Bring on the filthy.
Yes, because it is I that cureth your cancer.
You were the secret sauce.
Dude, first of all, that...
but you were there to entertain him.
That is so awesome to hear. So, like, an infinite amount of congratulations. Yeah. That is such great stuff to hear. And, again, it kind of goes back to that thing about one of the reasons I love movies so much, is that watching movies and being in communities that talk about movies, is just, again, it doesn't take our problems away. It just allows us those moments of oasis to refresh ourselves and help us be in a position to better deal with the crap that's in our lives. It doesn't take away any of the crap in our lives, but it maybe gives us a different perspective and refreshes us and gives us a place where we can just deal with it a little differently. And that's one of the things I love about movies and the communities that talk about them. So thank you for sharing that. That is such good news to hear. Thank you again, and congratulations again. And continued health, my friend. Continued health. All right, what's next?
Scotty says, curious to know what you think of Landman Season 2. It's been pretty good.
Love Landman. Haven't watched one episode of Season 2 yet. Again, I'm trying to slowly, right now, I'm trying to now get caught up on Welcome to Derry, because I watched the first 2 episodes of Welcome to Derry. Then all my traveling happened. Haven't been able to keep up. I finally got fully caught up on Pluribus. Kind of wish I hadn't. Now I'm trying to get through Welcome to Derry. I will get caught up on Landman here soon. All right, what's next?
Jacob the Galbo says, if $50,
$50 super chat. Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate that, man.
If you were a senator of your home planet, would you stay in the Empire or leave and help the rebels fight? What's best for your planet? Depends on what the Emperor wants.
That's a tough thing, right? It depends on what your planet situation is, because the reality is, if you're a planet that decides to go against the Empire, you're putting a big target on your planet.
Right.
We saw what happened to Alderaan. So I would like, it looks in an ideal world, I'd say, yes, we would stand up against the Empire. But if I'm responsible for the safety and well-being of the 7 billion people that live on my planet and in my system, I honestly don't know. I don't know. I'd like to say, yes, let's stand up and fight the Empire and rebel against the Empire and join the rebellion. But if it's my responsibility, I would need a month to think about that. I can't even think about that in a few minutes.
Senator, we found a source of kyber crystals on your planet. Empire it is.
Empire it is. All right, what's next?
Josh says, did you see last week the Sphere has sold 1.5 million tickets to Wizard of Oz? They were saying so far it's grossed 225 to 240 million.
We talked about this a few weeks ago. By the way, I have gone to the Sphere to watch Wizard of Oz. It is such an incredible experience. Way overpriced, but an incredible experience nonetheless. I couldn't believe how much fun it was to watch it on that format. It was just insanely cool. And because of that box office success, they're now talking to Lucasfilm about putting some of the original Star Wars. They're talking to Warner Brothers about adapting 1 or 2 of the original Harry Potter movies. They're now looking at doing more movies like that. And with those types of dollar values, who can blame them?
Nah.
All right, what's next?
Daniel says, if a Injustice storyline were introduced as Elseworld, use main DCU cast or new actors to show general audience that this is not connected.
Well, you can't do it. I mean, you just can't do it at all. Because look, Injustice only works. And I say this as a huge fan. It's one of my favorite pure stories in comic books of the last 10 years or so. I think the Injustice storyline, like in the comic run they did of it, is just incredible. But it is a story that requires you to have a very firm understanding of DC lore in order to appreciate what's happening in it. It's kind of like Kingdom Come. Like, you can't just do a Kingdom Come and have somebody who doesn't really know DC at all and just make Kingdom Come their first story they read. They'll miss almost everything about it, all the nuance of it. And because of that, I would just say Injustice just isn't something you could do for at least 10 years anyway. So it's just that. All right, what's next?
X-Men Superfan says, do you think Marilyn Monroe is the most recognizable actor of all time? Her face is everywhere.
No, absolutely not, because her face is not everywhere today.
But I put her on the level of like Elvis was for music, because they're hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, but even then, I would say you could put Elvis's face up to a random 17-year-old somewhere, and a lot more people would recognize, be able to say Elvis, than Marilyn Monroe's face. Again, I'm not taking anything away from Marilyn Monroe's place in pop cultural history at all, but the reality is No, I don't think she's the most recognized. I mean, if you want to put the silhouette of her on the big wind grate and holding her dress down, that's a very iconic image, but just put up her face to a random 17-year-old in the world. I think there's a high percentage of them that don't know who that is.
That's why 17-year-olds suck.
All right, what's
kidding.
next?
X-Men says, do you think they were pushing Lanterns for it to air on Netflix? No.
No.
That was always
But again, guys, just put Netflix and DC completely out of your mind. Nothing is going to happen for at least a year. There's going to be no change of procedure. Nothing. You can't push for anything. Warner Brothers, Netflix is not allowed legally to have any input or influence over what Warner Brothers does right now until this deal is completed, and that's at least a year away.
Right.
All right, what's next?
Which follows into his follow-up here. It's about the same thing. That do you think Batman and Wonder Woman films could be hindered by the sale? Do you think those projects are safer than, let's say, The Authority?
Well, I don't think The Authority was very safe anyway.
Yeah.
Just
that's
because
up to James Gunn.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with Netflix.
Yeah.
And no, again, this deal, look, business will continue to go on as usual at Warner Brothers until the sale is complete. And that's at least a year away. And a Wonder Woman movie and a Batman movie are going to be in production within the year. Within the next 12 months, both those movies will be in production, so they won't be impacted by this at all.
All right. He uses acronyms here, so I don't know what he's getting at, but I wonder what will happen with UHD BDR with Netflix buying Warner Brothers.
Yeah, no idea.
But I don't know what
UHD.
UHD.
Guys, please don't write in acronyms.
And BDR.
All right, what's next?
The final one here. Josh Molinari, 6-minute clip of The Odyssey will be attached to all 70mm IMAX screens of I forget what OBAO is, and Sinners. Sinners on
One Battle
December,
After Another.
One Battle After Another.
Guys,
December
please
12th.
don't write in acronyms. That's interesting.
I wasn't sure if that was confirmed. I had heard that, but I wasn't sure if that was confirmed.
Yeah, I don't know if it's confirmed either. Again, I haven't seen it. I mean, I know I went through Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, Deadline all this morning. I didn't see that written anywhere there. So it might be real, but it would make sense. I mean, Nolan, this is going to be a big IMAX release. IMAX as a company is re-releasing Sinners. Put that in front of it to get some people out. I mean, I could buy it. I could see that. I could see that being believable. Yeah, it would be a great move. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. For some of you in the LA area, I'll see you at our movie meetup tonight. I'm looking forward to it. And again, guys, thank you so much to all of you who have supported us for our Adopt-A Family this year. I'm sure we've sold more of those gift cards. I'm looking forward to going over and checking that out. And of course, we will see you guys again on tomorrow's show. So for our friend Robert Meyer Burnett, our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my good friends, bye-bye.